the history of crack cocaine. I'm thinking about how I grew up on 148th Street.
In the Bronx?
No.
Oh, no, you were like Washington.
I was on 88th Street. My mother lived on 88th Street. I went to public school on 89th Street.
So you were just uptown.
I was an uptown guy.
Yeah.
But my godmother, my Santeria godmother, lived on 148th Street.
So she's Harlem almost. She is Harlem. She is Harlem, yeah.
Harlem. And it was a great neighborhood. I learned a lot there.
A couple of blocks up, you can cross over into the fucking Yankee Stadium over there.
Right there, 169.
Yeah.
Cross right over. So it was that whole block. Not when I was with my godmother. As I got older, 10 years later, I would go visit my godmother. I would surprise. I'd bring her flowers. She'd talk to me, and then on the way out, I'd just cross the street and cop Buddha Thai weed. They would sell Buddha Thai, Buddha Thai, Buddha Thai, Buddha Thai. This is 82, 81, 80.
Oh, yeah, that's where they're smoking Thai stick and Buddha.
Thai stick and Buddha.
Yeah.
And they either sold you Buddha, Thai stick, or they sold you Sensimilla. It was the beginning of Narcos. All that shit of Narcos, Mexico, when they started sending Sensimilla, that was 1980 fucking.
That was a Jamaican one.
Well, the Jamaican one was lamb's bread.
Right.
That was what they sold in the city. That was big. That fucked you up.
I remember that. Why is it called lamb's bread? Because it's some bad shit.
Yeah. Oh. The people don't even know about lamb's bread today. Very, very, very few people know the power of lamb's bread. You know, they used to call all that weed chocolate Thai, Buddha Thai.
Yeah.
But basically it was lamb's bread. And it was Jamaican weed. And it fucked you up.
And then in around 84, 85, they started smoking Willa blunts.
Well, before that was when the Sensimilla started coming around. And then I had a school teacher, Mr. Pullman. He used to fucking get Maui Wabi shipped to him.
I remember Maui Wabi.
And he would sell it to you at school in a stick with a
hilarious.
$35 for 3 joints.
Jesus.
That was more than you ever paid in your life.
How much was the regular joint?
Like $1 a joint.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So you could buy a half ounce of dirt weed and get, pay $25 and get 32 joints. So I can make $7. Like that was your thinking when you were a sophomore in high school. 7 joints is $20 today. So do you see what I'm saying? Like I made 20 on 25 investment. So I would buy a quarter pound for $100 and sell it for 200. Right off the bat.
I was doing that shit in the late 80s.
When I was a sophomore, I hung out with a guy that's what he sold. He would front it to me. He would drive me. He would drive me, give it to me. I'd go upstairs and I'd keep 100, give him 100. That's how quick I made $100 in those days. That was the 8th grade freshman year. But going back to my godmother, when I went back, and this is all in 82, 83. I went to Colorado in 83. Came back, and I never really went to see my godmother. I was on the shit list. And then finally in 85, I came up with enough guts to go see my godmother. And I went down the stairs to get some weed to go back to Colorado. But as I was waiting at the light to cross, I seen all these motherfuckers putting cardboard down. Fucking like making believe fight. And then they would start spitting on their backs and shit. And that was more or less.
That was 82 then.
Yeah.
81, 82.
That was, like it was everywhere. Like I had been in such a cocaine closet. I missed the beginning of all that shit. And I never forget going up to a guy and going, "Where's the reefer? Who's out?" And the guy's like, "There ain't no reefer on this block no more. This is straight up Crackville."
Yeah.
So I'm like, Crackville was 180 first and up.
Oh yeah, it hit the Bronx hard.
It hit the Bronx hard. Crackers.
I had friends. My friends in the Bronx tell me crazy stories. One of them was like, "Yo," he said he was on. I said, how long were you on crack for?" He goes, "Right up until around 97. I go, "Are you fucking kidding me, dude? 97? He goes, "Yeah, I had it bad." He goes, "You ever see those movies and then those abandoned buildings with the fucking crackheads everywhere and fucking just strung out?" He goes, "I was in those buildings, fucking raw dogging these crackhead chicks. I'm surprised I don't have AIDS." I'm like, God damn.
Wow. Crack was fucked up, man. I could lie to you and tell you I went to a crack den. I never went to a crack den.
Did you try crack?
Yes, here.
Oh, really?
Can you believe that? Here,
How was it?
2002.
Wow. I couldn't find it in 2002.
2002.
It was throwback crack.
2002, 2003, they sold it on Orange and Selma.
In Hollywood.
Right down the block from Man's Chinese Theater.
Wow.
If you cross the street,
Yeah, I know where it is. The
Chinese
building
Theater,
right there.
and you walk down, then you hit Hollywood High School parking lot,
Yeah.
right down the corner. There'd be two guys there every night standing there. So I'd be fucked up in the coke and drinking at the comedy store. So I'd drive on Selma all the way home. Cross Highland, cross La Brea, and then by the time I got to Orange, every night they would stare at me, and I would stare at them. And one night I go, "What's all this staring about?" So I pulled up, I go, "What's cracking?" And he goes, "Crack." He didn't say crack. He goes, "I got rocked."
Yeah.
So I said, "Let me get a 20. And he fucking let it know. Took the bag out and gave it. I'm like, "All right, see you later."
That's normal?
Yeah, with a baggie, with a twist on it
Oh.
and shit. They hide it in their mouth. Shit, so they can
Already
swallow
out.
it. Right, so he gives me the bag and fucking I go home. My girlfriend at the time, who was now my wife, was sleeping. And I took it home and I fucking crushed it up. This is how stupid Uncle Joey is. I crushed that fucking rock up to death. It was a mountain of coke that I fucking snorted. And I sat there for 20 minutes and my throat got a little numb. Nothing happened. The party didn't start. I didn't jerk off, nothing. And the next day I told a dear friend of mine that was a fucking animal what I did. And he goes, "They sold you crack, stupid."
You gotta freebase that
fucking
shit.
retarded? He goes, "You gotta smoke that." I go, "How do you smoke crack?" Like, I didn't know. He goes, "You gotta get a pipe and all." And I go, "All right." So next night I went over there again. I bought crack and I put in a Coke can. I went home, cracked up a Coke can, put holes in it, and I started smoking crack. And I smoked crack for about 6 weeks. My wife would wake up in the middle of the night and go, "Joey, what's that smell?" And I would go, "It's a new reefer I got. Go back to bed." I would buy 4 rocks, 6 rocks.
How was it?
It was disgusting. It was part of my disgusting days.
No. But what was the buzz like on it?
It was like a cousin to cocaine. At that time, Russell, I think it was like 2001.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the same. It didn't matter what night it was, it's all one big blur now, but I smoked crack for about 6 or 7 weeks. And then I had a 2-week run in El Paso. He used to hire me for like 2-week runs. So he would hire me for like 1 week to open up for Russell as a feature. And he liked me so much, he'd go, "Why don't you do me a favor?"
Open for me?
Like, yeah.
Oh,
No,
you're
it's
just
like
throwing a name
for
out.
a
Okay,
guy like
gotcha.
you. When I was a feature headliner, I could headline,
Yeah.
but I was really a strong feature. He would say, "Open up for Russell, stay," because he had a condo. They go stay, and then do a show Wednesday by yourself, and then Russell's cousin's coming in Friday and Saturday, and then you do Sunday. You headline Sunday, and I would do that. So when I went down there, nobody's got crack in El Paso. They got the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they walk it over. Here for you. They just walk it over. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You could call Mexico. "Where you at?" "I'll be there in 10 minutes. All of a sudden, a sewer plate pops up. The Mexican comes out with a little mud on his head.
Like Felipe on Three's Company.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. There's cocaine everywhere. So when I went down there, I looked for crack. I couldn't find it. So I went back to snort coke. That's how I got rid of crack.
I remember it must have been around 1994, and I was driving in Toronto. I thought I was fly because I had this fucking Saturn. Oh, actually, it must have been 95 because I had rims on it already. I had a Saturn, but it had no AC. I didn't have power windows, nothing. So I had to roll down all the windows, and I had a sound system that I put in the trunk. And I'm driving through this crackhead part of town, and I'm at a red light. Music's playing. There's a girl standing at the corner. She's cute. She looks at me and smiles. I go, "What's up?" I go, "Where you going?" She goes, "I'm going that way." I go, "Get in." So she gets in. She goes, "Thanks. Can you take me? I'm going to my uncle's." I go, "Cool, no problem." She goes, "Do you mind if I smoke?" I go, "No, go ahead." She pulls out a fucking asthma inhaler, puts a rock on it and starts lighting up in my car. I go, yo, what the fuck you smoking? She goes, I know, it's a bad habit. I go, no. Cigarettes are a bad habit. You're fucking smoking crack in my car. I go, why don't you smoke some weed? Do you got some? I go, actually, yeah, because I was selling weed at the time. I go, actually, yes, I do. So she goes, oh, good. So I went to her uncle's with her, some shady-ass building. I walk in. Uncle's there. You got weed. Yeah, you got weed. Yeah, so I sold him some weed, and I just got the fuck out because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get shot, stabbed, whatever's going to happen in here.
You know, when you tell stories like this, it's like when I tell stories like this. And it's crazy because people can't fathom that.
No, they don't realize how fucking weird our lives are.
How weird and crazy position. You know, when you come to Hollywood as a woman, as a young man, you see things. You know, these women that complain, this, that. You know, they see something and you just get sucked in by it. And I can tell you something. There was 9 parts in my life. I can name 9 situations in my life where at one point I said to myself, I really don't belong here. Like,
I say that every fucking day. I say that shit.
You know, this isn't who I am at all. I didn't come here to see a guy get beat or a guy get hit in the head with a pipe. Or, you know, I seen my stepfather shoot a guy at 8. I wasn't participant to all that stuff. One story that I told on Ari's that I didn't tell the full creepiness of was when I sold that guy the stolen thing and he gave me $60 and he gave me some heroin. That was like a horrible night for me. I made it funny. But if I really sat down with people and described what happened to me that night and how there was an old lady, the whole time we did coke first, and then he's like, you should try this heroin. I'm 16.
Oh, wow.
I'm 16. He's 29. Who the fuck knew?
I didn't realize how much older.
Yeah, he looked like fucking Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. But he was cool with all my friends. Like, he was one of the older guys that we were cool with. And when I came in, he goes, you want a blowjob, John? I got a girl in the bathroom that likes to suck dick while you take a shit.
Oh, a Vulcan.
I'm sick of that right there. Just hearing that. That's traumatic for some people. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, nah, I'm good, bro. I wasn't into disgust yet. I was still a Catholic. My mother had died.
Right.
And I hadn't lost my faith yet. And I was like, nah, I'm okay. I just want to pick up the $60. Then, you know, and he's like, well, sit down. Let's do a couple lines. Then he came out and we did the heroin. When I was on the heroin, he asked me 10 times, like, you sure you don't want that chick to suck your dick? Like, it was so disturbing looking at it now. I didn't make it disturbing. It was a joke. You know, it was a fucking joke. Now I look at it as kind of funny. But I didn't belong there that night. You know? I didn't belong there. You know, so...
Nobody really belongs.
It's kind of weird when you have stories like that a chick got in your car. I was in Montana. I'd love to say Missoula. But it could have been Billings. No, it wasn't Billings. It was either Missoula or one of those. I get to the fucking club. Russell, I'm a junkie. But I'm in Montana. What are my chances of copying?
Mm-hmm.
Unless the kitchen guy is Mexican. Like I was in South Dakota one time. I made eye contact with the busboy. Next thing you know, I was snorting coke. You know, he was the only Puerto Rican in town. He was from the Bronx.
Hilarious.
He was in the service. And on the weekends, he washed dishes at this restaurant I did comedy at. It was a triple run. You know what I'm saying? So you could cop in Green Dakota, South Dakota, something. You can cop anywhere. But I'm in Montana. I'm not looking to cop. I'm not even thinking
You're
about
probably,
copping.
in your head, you're probably looking forward to a weekend of being clean.
Yeah, I was like, I'm doing Montana, Portland. Maybe I'll cop in, I think Saturday. I was like, I know I could cop at that place.
Yeah.
So here I am in Montana. Hi, how you doing? Joe Diaz, the feature act. I'm the MC. Nice to meet you. The MC goes up on stage. The owner comes over. He goes, this is my daughter. Girl was fucking beautiful, tall, and tell her what you want if you're hungry. He walks away. I'm thinking this girl goes to like Yale. She had that Yale look to her. And the girl says, how you doing? How was your drive in? Is the hotel fine for you? You know how people ask you those basic questions.
The generics.
And right on, she looks me in the eye and she goes, if there's anything you need, I mean anything, asked me. Like, okay.
We are at the forefront of a crisis our planet will not survive. 42 million trees destroyed every.
Let's start off with the basics. Because before I buy the fucking lobster Cantonese, I gotta try the pork fried rice. I go, you got reefer? She goes, yeah, what do you want? I don't know, give me $50 for the reefer. Yeah. Because I'll be right back. Left, came back, boom, reefer. Anything else? I go, I don't know. Let me go on stage and I'll think about it. I went on stage, I got on stage, they paid me. I pulled her aside, I go, can you get some powder? She goes, it's not here. I gotta go for a ride. You wanna come? The V-track with me, I don't really want them to know what's going on. So she goes, I just bring it to your hotel. Okay. You know, half hour, I get a call in the hotel room. I didn't have a cell phone then. She's like, I'm on my way, I'll be there. She showed up. Very nice. Nothing sexual, nothing. She sat down. She goes, do you mind if I do a taste? I go, no, go ahead. And I had stopped to get like beers. I got a beer for her. When I turned around, she was taking out a rig. And I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I don't snort that. That's for pussies. She goes, I shoot it. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
so, who would expect to see somebody shoot coke, a woman who's beautiful, by the way? This was not some girl with fucked up teeth and a broken car. This girl had a dad who owned a bar. She went to college. She didn't snort coke. She was shooting. If you thought I expected to see that in whatever Montana, no.
I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm going home. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say
we cannot continue simply to be prisoners of this crisis. We're preparing now, slowly, cautiously, to come out of hibernation, and I believe it's absolutely vital for us to set out the way ahead so that everyone can think and plan for the future, short, medium, and long term. Because if the COVID crisis has taught us one thing, it's that this country needs to be ready for what may be coming, and we need to be able to move with levels of energy and speed that we have not needed for generations. And I know that there are plenty of things that people will say, and we got wrong. And we owe that discussion and that honesty to the tens of thousands who have died before their time, to the families who have lost loved ones. And of course there must be time to learn the lessons, and we will. But I also know that some things went right, and emphatically right. And I think of the speed and efficiency with which we put up the Nightingales, 10 days for a hospital. I think of the drive and inventiveness of the British companies who rose to the ventilator challenge with 3 brand new production lines called into being within the space of 8 weeks, with a new model of ventilator developed in March and granted regulatory approval in weeks, and 9,500 of them now made. I pay tribute to the pace at which Oxford University managed to perform the trials for dexamethasone, the world's first demonstrably life-saving treatment for the disease. I'm in awe of the problem-crunching fury with which HMRC and the Treasury created the furlough scheme and all the other means of support. World-leading standards of protection for jobs and incomes set up in a matter of days. There were brilliant and determined individuals who more than rose to the challenge of this crisis. There were thousands and thousands who put their hearts and souls into it. And yet our debt is not just to them, it's not just even to the devotion and the love of the NHS and the care workers who saved so many lives, including my own. There was one big reason, in the end, that we were able to avert a far worse disaster, and that was because the whole of society came together to make a sacrifice on behalf of those who might be particularly vulnerable, particularly the elderly. We all knew when we went into lockdown that there would be huge economic costs, and we could see what would happen, and yet we did it. The United Kingdom, in a display of solidarity not seen since the Second World War. And so today, we must combine that energy and drive with that concentrated burst of collective willpower that protected the NHS and controlled the virus and saved literally hundreds of thousands of lives. And we must work fast, because we've already seen the vertiginous drop in GDP, and we know that people are worried now about their jobs and their businesses, and we're waiting as if between the flash of lightning and the thunderclap.
If your gums bleed when you brush, you may have gum disease, and the clock could be ticking to much worse. Bad breath? Then,
with our hearts in our mouths for the full economic reverberations to appear. And so we must use this moment now, this interval, to plan our response and to fix, of course, the problems that were most brutally illuminated in that COVID lightning flash. The problems in our social care system, the parts of government that seem to respond so sluggishly, so that sometimes it seemed like that recurring bad dream when you're telling your feet to run and your feet won't move. And yet we must also go further and realize that if we are to recover fully, if we're to deal with the coming economic aftershock, then this COVID crisis is also the moment to address the problems in our country that we have failed to tackle for decades. Because it's one of the most extraordinary features of the UK, in so many ways the greatest place on earth, that we tolerate such yawning gaps between the best and the rest. We have some of the best and most productive companies in the world, and yet we are not as nationally productive as many of our global competitors. We have the world's most brilliant medical minds, the world's best pharmaceutical companies. Our doctors, our treatments are the best in the world. And yet we have so many millions who have to wait for too long to see their GP, even before the new waiting lists produced by the crisis. We have umpteen fantastic, globally outstanding universities. And yet too many degree courses are not now delivering value, and for a century we've failed to invest enough in further education and give young people the practical training and further education they need. We have a capital city. London was, is, will be, in so many ways, the capital of the world. Great respect to Andy. Theatre, finance, tech, restaurants, you name it. London leads the world. And yet too many parts of our amazing country have felt left behind, neglected, unloved, as though someone had taken a strategic decision that their fate did not matter as much as the metropolis. So I want you to know that this government not only has a vision to change this country for the better, we have a mission to unite and to level up. And it's the mission on which we were elected last year, and we have a plan. And in advancing that plan now, I just serve notice that we will not be responding to this crisis with what people call austerity.
You can do a lot with a little, like picking up an award-winning Dacia with zero deposit.
We're not going to cheese pear our way out of trouble, because
Hello.
glad you made it back. When I'm ready, and not before. When I'm ready, and not before.
Because the world has moved on since 2008. And we not only face a new and in some ways a far bigger challenge. And I can tell everybody, businesses, that next week the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, will be setting out our immediate plan to support the economy through the first phase of the recovery. But this moment also gives us a much greater chance to be radical and to do things differently, to build back better and to build back bolder. And so we will be doubling down on our strategy. We will double down on leveling up, if you can make sense of that. And when I say level up, I don't mean attacking our great companies, or I don't mean impeding the success of London, far from it, or launching some punitive raid on the wealth creators. I don't believe in tearing people down any more than I believe in tearing down statues that are part of our heritage, let alone a statue of our greatest wartime leader. I believe in building people up, giving everyone growing up in this country the opportunity they need. Whoever you are, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your background, and there are certain things that are indispensable for that opportunity. Hospital you're born in, schools you go to, the safety of the streets where you grow up. And this government has not forgotten that we were elected to build 40 new hospitals. And we will. Matt Hancock is setting out the list in the next few days, and that is just the beginning. We will continue and step up the biggest ever program of funding the NHS. And we won't wait to fix the problems of social care that every government has flunked for the last 30 years. We will end the injustice that some people have to sell their homes to finance the cost of their care while others don't. And we're finalizing our plans, and we will build a cross-party consensus. We want to look after those who have looked after us. And at the same time, we will build the foundations now for future prosperity, to make this country a Britain that is fully independent and self-governing for the first time in 45 years, the most attractive place to live, to invest, to set up a company, with the most motivated and highly skilled workforce. And so we're investing massively now in education, with over £14 billion for primary and secondary education between now and 2023. And today, with a new 10-year school building programme, beginning now with £1 billion for the first 50 schools, and a vast £1.5 billion programme for refurbishing our dilapidated FE sector. Dilapidated in many places, not here, of course. Because it's...
Lion, grizzly bear, monster, brown bear.
It's time that the system recognized that talent and genius are expressed as much by hand and by eye as they are by a spreadsheet or an essay. So when I say unite and level up, when I say build up people and build up talent, I want to end the current injustice. It means a pupil from a London state school is now 50% more likely to go to a top university than a pupil from the West Midlands. And that is not only unjust, it is such a waste of human talent. We will unleash the potential of the entire country.
So now there's a new detail that's come with JJ's remains, and it was that they found JJ's body wrapped in garbage bags, but differently. His head was wrapped in a white garbage bag, and the rest of his body was wrapped all up, head included, in dark garbage bags. So it got us thinking, is it possible that the way that JJ died was due to that white trash bag, that white garbage bag? Was it possible he suffocated? And if so, your natural instinct is to claw it off. How could that maybe be abated? Could it have involved drugging? So I talked to Joseph Scott Morgan about that, and here's our conversation.
The first thing that jumps to mind, Ash, is the fact that JJ's body was wrapped in plastic, and that in and of itself is going to be a source for a wealth of information and evidence. You know, we've got things like latent fingerprints, hair, dead skin cells, which, you know, arises touch DNA, and people are thinking, well, the body was buried, you're going to have dirt on the outside. You're not going to have dirt on the inside potentially. So they have to be very, very careful when they're even removing the packaging that the body is in, because any disruption in that can disturb this very, very fragile evidence. And then beyond that, you know, you're going to be thinking from a kind of a chemical level relative to JJ. He did have the bag over his head, and you know, my thought is this a means in order to, say, for instance, suffocate JJ? I don't know, maybe so, but how do you get him to that point where you can place a bag over his head and kind of hold him in stasis, if you will, long enough to do that? That's where toxicology comes in.
Well, that was immediately what came to mind when I read the affidavit and saw there was a white plastic substance covering the child's head, but black plastic for the rest of the body. And anybody knows that you'll claw away at it if you can, and there'll be some sort of signs of struggle.
Yeah.
How would you try to avoid the signs of struggle? Would it be perhaps introducing a drug into the crime?
Yeah, you know, I was kind of opining about this my own way the other day, because during my career as a medical legal death investigator, I worked a number of cases that all stem from an organization or called the Hemlock Society, that a famous book was published called Final Exit. And this is kind of a society that believes in assisted suicide and what they refer to as self-deliverance. But one of the methodologies that they talk about with this is simply ingesting copious amounts of a substance like diphenhydramine, which you can find in sleep aids and NyQuil and those sorts of things, and then place a bag over your head so that you deprive yourself of oxygen. This is a respiratory depressant. I think that that's probably what we would be looking at, something that would slow heart rate, something that would compromise your ability to breathe. You place the bag over the head, that compromises replenishment of oxygen, and you have an anoxic death, which literally means that the brain is going to shut down because it's not being oxygenated. It's important to remember with this that, you know, the brain only makes up about, 2% of our total body weight, but it requires roughly 15 to 20% of all the oxygen that's utilized in our bodies.
So the first thing that the layperson would think was, well, that would show up in an autopsy if there was some kind of drug introduced, especially in JJ, who was buried as a full body. He wasn't dismembered, he wasn't burned like the other child was, Tylee. That would show up, or would it?
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? Because let me tell you what we're dealing with. If you give somebody a substance to ingest, say a drink is laced with something, you inject them with something, you give a small child something to say, well, this is to make you feel better. Remember, JJ was used to taking medication. Of course, he hadn't been taking it like he should have, but this child was used to being given medication. So Lord only knows what he may have been given. But that aside, did you live long enough for the drugs to actually metabolize and to begin to break down? Or is there a half-life that's still going to exist in the drug? That is, does it exist in some form? Now, aside from that, we have to think about, these bodies were buried for a protracted period of time. And as we all know, what's going on here is decomposition. So how much is decomposition going to impact any substance that was left in the body? That remains to be seen. Most of the time, people think, well, if you're talking about poisoning, we're going to think about heavy metals, and you can find that in the hair. Yeah, but do you realize how rare it is that somebody actually gets poisoned with heavy metals? We hear about it, in the news and that sort of thing, and, all kinds of dramatic tales. It's not that frequently. We're talking about arsenic and things like that. It just doesn't happen as frequently as you might think that it does.
So if you bring up a fascinating part of this puzzle, and that is, how long was the child alive after the drug was introduced, and what's the half-life and how quickly does that drug disappear. But the other side of the equation is, you know, when you do an autopsy, everything in the blood doesn't just show up. You have to go hunting for specific things, and you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is key. Much of the public thinks that, well, we're going to do a toxicology panel, a post-mortem toxicology panel. We'll find anything. No, you won't. There's a standard panel that you do from a post-mortem perspective, and we're looking at things like opiates, you know, diazepine. We're looking at even cannabinoids, THC. We're looking at blood ethanol. But if you start to talk about any kind of exotic poison out there, or even things that are, say, like diphenhydramine. Diphenhydramine is actually what you would find many times in, say, for instance, like Benadryl. That will make you sleepy, that sort of thing. You find it in, you know, huge amounts in things like NyQuil. And the idea is to make you sleep in order so that your body can recover. It's also got an antihistamine in it. That's one of the things that causes the sleepiness. So are those things going to show up? Most of the time, they will not in a standard panel. You have to go looking for what's referred to as exotics. And there is a huge spectrum of these things. And then the toxicologists that are involved in cases like this have to take into account the problem of decomposition. And that's a very difficult puzzle to try to solve.
If nobody can find a specific drug to even look for, is there anything else that would happen to a body that would tell you maybe they were drugged and suffocated?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that kind of strikes me in cases like this, and it can be comparable sometimes to drowning, if you will, the lungs will get particularly heavy as a result of some type of agent that somebody puts on board. It's a respiratory depressant. So the individual literally goes into like a congestive failure of their heart and their lungs. The lungs will actually take on more weight, fluid builds up, and you can appreciate this at autopsy. Again, we're back to this problem of decomposition, though, because the appearance of lungs, the weight of lungs can change as a result of that. So the forensic pathologist in this case is really going to have to take their time and examine this very, very carefully. That's why it's going to take a while for these results to come back at you.
Is it possible that if Tylee suffered the same fate as her brother and was suffocated with the same kind of plastic bags, that even after the perpetrator tried to char those remains, that there might be some evidence of that left over?
Yeah, there can be. I've actually seen cases where you will have bodies that are kind of cocooned in plastic, and on the unaffected side, let's say the side that is down, you can actually find remnant of the bag or the plastic on that side. It's kind of protected from the heat. In that sense, you can. But on the top side, if you're talking about applying fire to plastic, it's literally going to vaporize after a very short period of time. And again, this goes to how long was this fire tended? You know, how long did they spend with the body trying to render the body down? I think that there is a possibility that some of the plastic could be removed because something was removed from that fire, from the fire pit and placed in that grave. So you'd never know. That's why they were being so careful at the scene.
It's so fascinating to hear Joseph Scott Morgan talk about his work in death investigation as pertains to this case in particular, especially when you learn about standard panels versus exotic panels. And then there are those substances that are not in the exotic panels that you have to order and specifically test for. What's very interesting, though, is don't forget, we're talking about two children, right? We are also talking about Tammy Daybell. We are also talking about others. There are two other dead people in this story. And those are Lori Vallow Daybell's two ex-husbands, right? Those men were, they were cremated, but that doesn't mean that their samples and tissues weren't left behind because they had autopsies. And so this could all pertain to them as well.
Greetings. Journey well. When I'm ready and not before.
got it all together. I don't know if I got it together or not. I might explode one day.
Jabbar Kearns was an inmate for nearly 11 years at ADX Fortress, the most secure prison in the United States.
This one goes out to all the allergy muddlers. You know who you are. Try Benadryl Allergy Relief. It gets...
What else, cocksucker? What's up in your world? Your dad's been here. How's that been?
It's been a lot. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun having him. I did a couple periscopes with him. He's having a lot of
You
fun.
got him all sick with that fucking
No.
Billy Go Fuji, trying to blame it on probiotics. I'm telling you to stop eating tacos at that place. They got caught serving lizards in 2000 something. Even the YMCA people tell you they don't eat that. When you told me you were eating, I go, this fucking guy is attracted to bad food. That whole mall there, I wouldn't eat in that whole mall. That whole NoHo Diner, Greek place next to that Mexican place, and that. Do you see what's next to that place? That bodega?
Yeah.
Do you see what goes in there?
No.
Go in there and park one day and see what goes in there.
What's in the bodega?
Just see the type of people that go into that bodega, and then tell me if you want to eat tacos over there. You understand,
Why does
man?
the bodega have to do with the
Because
tacos?
it's all together. It's all connected. They get products from that bodega. Maybe they get spam or something. Who the fuck knows? I'm just telling you, that's a scary ad. You give them that shit food from day one. You've been giving them shitty food. You threw them off.
No, we went and got sushi.
You got them sushi and stout. Everything else has been garbage. That Mexican shit. You got them that Thai shit.
I didn't
and you
get
got
him.
'em
No, there's no Thai shit.
And you
There
got
was
that
a
cat
green-
fake fucking dumpling shit from down there that you take.
Delicious.
The fuck out of here.
He loves the dumplings.
Right now, there's little kids looking for their cat somewhere in fucking Venice. And right now, those fucking Koreans are jumping up and down over there. They got fucking,
I keep looking for them. There's still not a single stray cat.
Nothing.
I have to find one just to prove you wrong.
No, there's no stray cats. When I'm sitting there and I get that first burst of hunger, I start thinking about what places I want to go to. And I start thinking about who would I call to go to those places. You never, except Mexican food, maybe. Your sushi days with me are done. You embarrassed me. With that generic white sushi.
Who cares? Because see, this is where I was with you until this point. Who cares what the other person is eating?
And then he wants to go to Japan now to eat fucking American sushi.
No,
for
I
those
would
people.
try something there.
Yeah, you would try something there. Like
He
you
gets mad at me because I eat tuna and shrimp and different variations
Who
of all
goes
this.
out
Who
to eat
cares?
fucking shrimp? Sushi.
Shrimp is delicious.
How bad do you think be to go get the same shit you get everywhere? Which is shrimp salad, shrimp toast, the main fucking thing. So they could slice it and put it on a piece of rice and it still tastes
It's delicious. No, it doesn't taste like shit.
You didn't put wasabi on it?
I do, but don't. Okay, I do absolutely put wasabi on it. How dare you?
You don't put no
I
wasabi
do. He just gets mad because
I
it's
don't
not
get
what
mad.
you want.
I
But
don't
that,
get mad.
yes, you do. You said I can't go to sushi anymore.
You're an embarrassment. So I'll tell you the truth. You're an embarrassment. I'm not taking you for sushi. Even the waiter looks
Who
at
are
me
you
like,
embarrassed? Yeah, I was gonna say the waiter.
looks at me and goes, where'd you find this fucking mutt? Sushi, tuna, and fucking shrimp like a fucking...
It's delicious.
His name is Hank. Get the fuck out of here. You gotta get the rolls.
I do get rolls.
The blue crab rolls, the soft
No,
shell
yeah.
rolls, the fucking eyeball rolls. You gotta get all those rolls. Like Tuesday, I'll go to a different place. There's a room that they're telling me around the corner here.
Yeah.
There's a fucking place, an insurance place. They turned into a stand-up comedy place. Next to the sushi place with the D rating. Right there by 7-Eleven, by the police station.
A sushi place with D rating? Did they get any fucking business?
Tons
I would
of
never.
business.
I would never.
Listen, for $6,
Never.
they
You
give
want food poisoning?
Dog, I went there 2 times, and I left there.
You go there if you got weight to drop. You wants to lose some quick weight by
Dog, I went
vomiting
there
and
2
shit
times
for a
because it
couple
was
days.
open. Like one day, I go, let me see if these people got business. Me and Lee went in there. Didn't you go in there with me and Lee?
Yeah, you brought me in there after. I can't believe you're accusing me of wholesale sushi.
Well, the first time it wasn't bad. It was close by. I didn't go on Yelp. I took a
dare
chance. It wasn't. Nobody got sick. Nobody got sick. It wasn't. They gave you 4 items on the menu for like $6
Oh
and
my
a
God.
California roll. And as you're eating it, you're like, this is 2-day-old sushi, but I'm gonna live. I swam in the Hudson. This ain't no big thing.
Isn't the name like Sonny's or something?
Sonny D's.
Isn't it like a Jewish old man's name?
It's
Sonny?
a Jewish
Like-
old man with 2 Mexicans
Oh,
working. They don't know it's lick as fucking English. But let me tell you something. They're out there under a highway.
Oh my God.
Okay? They're under a highway. The corner, 10 feet away, is rat-infested dumpster. And do you know what? They have sidewalk eating. And there's people out there eating like it's fucking Paris, France.
It's al fresco.
Yeah, it's al fresco. Between the pollution and there's times I go to that 7-Eleven and I don't want to go home. There's a 7-Eleven there. There's a 7-Eleven, a dry cleaner, a bartending school, All right, so they have a bartending school there, and people go in there and drink.
Really?
Like from 8 to 10,
Oh my
that's what
God.
they do. So they want to train you. So neighborhood people go in there and get like a beer for like $1. You learn how to get a beer, how to open it and shit like that.
That's hysterical. You
How
get
to
a
mix
beer
a Greyhound. And then they go next door to the
When I'm ready and not before.
sushi place with the D rating, and they eat their hearts out. And they're out there, talking about gluten and ha ha ha, and world peace, and Hillary Clinton should have done it. But meanwhile, they're eating D fucking sushi. It's hysterical. But next to that, there used to be an all-state place, and now some kid cleaned it out, put a stage in there and chairs, and for $2 you go up there and they let you go on stage. And they run till like 3 in the fucking morning. That's why I'm scared to go to that 7-Eleven now. Every time I go in there, I see a different comedian. Hey, what are you doing? What am I doing? What are you doing? You're in the fucking corner over there with rats.
Is that the green room with the rats?
No, that's just a little room over there. But
that's really cool.
You know how many times I've parked in? I've gone in there like at 1 in the morning just to get like a soda and no smoking gum or a lighter. And I'll sit there, and within 8 minutes, I'll see a rat the size of my fucking arm right there, 20 feet away. And that's when I run in the car like a little fucking pussy. I fucking hate rats.
I don't like those like vermin animals. Like I don't like in we went to Rutgers in New Brunswick. They have like these ballsy ass pigeons, where you'll be walking and the pigeon like won't move for you. So like you end up finding yourself walking out of the way. I'm like I know I'll take out a pigeon. I know I'll beat a squirrel, but at what cost? Like it scratches my face. It pokes me in the bird flies up, tries to beak me in the eye. So I do the same thing. I just avoid them.
I love animals, but I'll kick a pigeon.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to have to twist this into little
I don't
pigeon
like
head.
those little fucking lice-infested motherfuckers with their disgusting feathers, shitting, plucking. They're
dirty. They're dirty, man.
They're dirty. I fucking hate pigeons with all my heart and shit. That place serves pigeon meat too.
What place?
That place that you went that day, that you and Paula went. I just read the review. They serve fucking pigeon and. Holy.
He calls me every meal. He calls me, and my dad. I gave my dad a few options, including stout, because I knew I took him through the Joey questions. I'm like, what's Joey gonna ask if I asked him? Okay, stout, we got him. He wanted to go get some Mediterranean.
They have no Mediterranean down there in fucking Florida.
It's
not like that.
You gotta take a plane all the way out here and embarrass me.
We've been going there since I moved here.
Then I happened to see Lee too, but I came for the sandwich.
Jesus Christ Almighty!
He calls me, and we go through this whole 10-minute barrage of. He didn't even talk to my dad. He's like, I don't want to talk to people who eat hummus, and hung up the phone. And my dad's like, does he call you and ask about your meals a lot? He's like, every meal. I like give the report of what I ate.
Oh, I do it just to shock myself. That's my entertainment. Whatever his dinner is, that's what my entertainment is. Because there's always a story. He could call me and tell me he's gonna go get a lobster tail, and he'll call me an hour later, and it completely changed to something so fucking outlandish that I won't understand it. I could see if you go, nah, we didn't want lobster, we went and got fish. But he'll go from like a lobster tail to like the worst taco place in the country.
I don't know.
He could talk to me about Mexican food, and we'll talk about it, how he loves it, he can't wait to have it, and an hour later, he's eating at a black fried chicken place, and he can't finish the chicken because it's so fucking bad. This guy goes to Pismo, eats pizza. In Hollywood, you go to Amoeba, you always go to Joe's. It's like tradition. You go to Joe's.
No one knows this tradition.
And you get pizza. When we go to Hollywood, where do I take you the last 3 times?
Yeah, so that's
okay. It's tradition. Him and Paula love pizza. They love bad pizza. They're at Amoeba. All they had to do was walk 30 yards to go to Joe's.
It's not 30.
30 fucking yards it is. Where'd they go? They got in their car and went to the worst fried chicken place in the fucking country. They couldn't even recognize. They would have done better at Popeyes.
We would have. It's sad. It's not the worst. It's supposed to be the best, but who knew?
That's what happens.
You told me not to use Yelp. Who hasn't heard of Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles?
When you're right at Amoeba, there's only one place to go. And that's Joe's Pizza.
Well,
I mean, you'll travel 2 hours to get a
next
bad
time
pizza.
I'm going to call you at like
no, don't
5
call me. This
p.m. just to check where.
This is stuff you fucking know off the top of your head. He went to Austin. Thank God I stopped him. He was going to all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet. Who goes to Austin to eat Chinese food? They would have poisoned him. They would have poisoned him. Thank God for Bobby Sharon to take him to eat Mexican food.
Oh, Chewy's.
Chewy. I mean, you know, it's always, Mr. Sayat, you don't understand what I live with.
Today?
Listen, he's happy with Blue Apron for a year. 2 weeks ago, what are you doing? I'm at the supermarket buying Parmesan cheese. I said, what are you cooking, spaghetti? He goes, no. This company, they delivered. This stuff was so bad. They had to throw it away. They never got it again. They were so embarrassed. Like, I don't take a chance. I'm from Jersey. I don't take chances. There's no reason to take a chance. If that Chinese place has a lunch special for $4.95 with a Diet Coke, I go there every day. That's where everybody goes. I don't care if they want to eat Greek sandwiches. I don't even pay attention. Like, I can't eat Chinese food. That's great. You're eating Chinese food today. I don't know nothing. I don't even ask people. Like, what would you prefer today? I don't give a fuck. We're going to get the best. You want to eat the best, or you want to fucking suck dick and take a chance and get... We came over the house with his mom, and they were kind enough to stop at Gelson's, right? And get cupcakes or something.
Yeah.
And I saw Lee open the cupcake. I never saw anything like that in my life. It was the neatest cupcake. If you looked at Lee, you thought he had a fucking lobster tail in front of him with a piece of pussy next to it on the side. I watched the whole cupcake go down, but he did it so politely. Like, he had a paper towel under it. He had a plan for this cupcake. Then he took the wrapper off the cupcake very meticulously. He didn't want to mess up the frosting. And if I'm correct, I think he even used a fork.
Absolutely.
That's how much it was as meticulous as I've ever seen anybody eat a fucking cupcake.
Really? I hate... There's nothing I hate more, and this is why I think the fly thing bothers me. I might not be super organized, but I hate, like, getting sticky or getting stuff on my... It drives me bananas. So the thought of getting, like, because there's a lot of frosting on it. The thought, especially at your house, like, not... Like, at my house, I can wipe it off or go wash my hands. But it's somewhere else in front of people.
I got a bathroom.
No. My mom has a joke that when I was a kid, she could leave me on a towel outside because I didn't like the feeling of grass on my, like, it was prickly. So I don't like all that. I don't like frosting on me. I don't go and get wings out because I can't imagine how, like, very rarely. I hate it.
Wings out?
Yeah.
What do you mean wings out?
Like, if you go to like Buffalo Wild Wings or a place to get, the only place I've gotten wings with you is that place, and I think it was Austin. The hotel had really good wings, but if you look, I have like 18 napkins in front of me. There's no way I'm leaving that on my face, especially around my mom and then your wife and your daughter. You don't want to make an ass of yourself.
So you make an ass of yourself doing everything else. Why
No,
not? What's the difference between fucking...
Merry Christmas.
What's the difference between eating a cupcake like it's the last fucking steak on earth? My point was that the way you looked at that cupcake, I didn't give a fuck about a cupcake. I don't give a fuck about cupcakes. But the way you looked at that cupcake, you open the door and let Jezebel in. What's the guy? What's the dude's name that comes on Passover?
The fucking ass. I don't even know his shirts. I don't even know shit like
Hold
that.
on.
I just know that there's questions.
Elijah.
There's questions and shit.
Well, because
I don't know what kind of questions. You have to ask some dumb shit.
There's Jewish women who are really good cooks, but like Jewish food kind of sucks.
Don't you fucking dare talk about Jewish food.
No, because
like
okay,
that.
the pot roast is delicious. Latkes are delicious.
Is that all you know?
Nah, no, there's more. But I don't like
whitefish.
That's sable.
Yeah.
Salmon.
I like salmon. What? I don't like matzo ball soup.
Are you out of your mind? You like kreplach? You like kreplach soup?
I don't think so.
You like wontons?
Of course.
It's a fucking Jewish wonton.
What's in a
It is.
kreplach?
It's a Jewish wonton.
That's all that is?
That's all it is.
But
It's
what's in
fucking
it? Is it-
stuffed with meat.
Okay.
It's a skin stuffed. So the wonton they just put in the soup. The kreplach, they fucking fry the shit first, then put it in the soup.
Is it one of the ones that have? What's that hot dog topping that they try to put in one of those? I thought. See, sauerkraut. Don't they put sauerkraut in it?
Are you a fucking Jew? What are you?
I don't know. Like, not really. I'm a
Bro,
reformed Jew.
I mean, listen, there's just a lot of fucking amazing food. Pastrami, you know, we don't like pastrami. Smoked meats that are cured. Corned beef. Brisket.
He don't like none.
Pickles.
You can't say pick.
You can't say pickles.
I
What do
mean,
you get
I
at a
guess they
Jewish
are.
fucking deli?
Yeah.
You get pickles right away.
He
That's
gets
the first
potato
thing.
chips.
No,
that too. They bring you that too. Listen, there's so much. What about fucking Kashkavanakish?
You're just making up words now.
Is that something? That's a real fucking noodle kugel.
Oh
Come
yeah,
on,
noodle
man.
kugel is good. That's true.
Fire, man. The Kashkavanakish is
but
stupid.
Comparatively, wouldn't you say other cultures blow Jewish food out of the water? I would say.
I mean, it's different. The Jews contributed a lot to culinary history.
Okay.
Challah?
Challah, it's bread. It's delicious, but it's bread.
You think I gotta deal with?
So wait a second.
This guy goes on Yelp for food reviews before he
And
goes
he's
to
the
a
fucking
restaurant.
guy that writes it to.
No,
Listen to me.
I don't write real.
It's just bread.
It's delicious,
but bread is. You understand how unique and how hard it is to make bread good?
Yes. Yes, it's the one.
And the Jews have perfected it in so many different ways.
But then
with the
what? Then
flat bread.
why do they keep us with matzah? Why do they make us eat matzah every year?
Because they had to fucking get the hell up out of there. They had to make something quick. It was just a snack.
It's terrible.
I like fucking matzah with butter. I like a lot of things, man. That's crazy. You're a
Matzah
fucking
with butter?
self-loathing Jew. That's all you are.
I guess so. And you technically are Jewish because it's on your mother's
And
side.
I hate myself because I believe in the stars.
What stars?
So many of them are in the sky. The ones that connect three.
Is that like Kabbalah?
Sirius. Nah, I don't know what that is.
I think
I never heard
mysticism.
of that. I'm from Queens. They call it synagogue.
It's the Jews that have the red string on their wrist.
I don't know that one, man.
It's Madonna Jews.
I don't know that fucking dude.
I
don't
wish
know
I
that
knew
one.
how to fucking cook.
I'll take care of you, man. I'll show you some shit.
I always
Easy shit.
Listen, when you're a fat fuck, you have ideas. Like I know how to dope shit up. Like I could take a steak and turn it into a filet mignon. You know what I'm saying? But there's a certain thing. Like I had a friend that went and was trained and the whole fucking thing, and he made desserts. And on Monday nights he would make the desserts, and I would sit there with him and sample them and write jokes all night. This is when I first started doing comedy. But I would watch him do his thing, man, and I was mystified. I just didn't have the time to put 4 years in a fucking culinary. Fresh from his fucking conveyor belt sushi.
Oh, you don't like that? It's like the perfect place if you're a stoner to go. There's no server interactions at all.
That place sucks.
You don't like it?
Sucks.
Yeah, that's gross fish.
Oh, come on, no.
I told you.
Conveyor belt fish.
Like I told you, dog. If you pick it, it's terrible. It's just terrible. It's just. I told somebody else, and they were like, I told Bert, and he's like, does he not know that place is fucking horrendous?
There's 8,000 places. You don't know where I went.
Bro, listen.
It's good.
It's downtown, right?
No.
Where is it?
It's in the nice area by the Jews in West LA. They have them in downtown in Little Tokyo, but I don't go there. I go to where the Jews are.
West LA for sushi. When you have the best sushi in the state right here.
Oh, no.
This is what I deal with.
No, you just like it
This
because
is
it's
what
your
you deal
favorite
with.
place.
No, there's two phenomenal places in the valley.
Yeah.
But you drove to West LA
Yeah, to take 2
get
seconds.
conveyor belt sushi because fucking I'm sure Yelp was involved or something was involved here.
I went to a place once where it came on boats. Boats?
Yeah, no,
I'm
no,
fucking
It
dumb.
never ends.
I was
It
like,
never
we're out of
ends.
here.
It never ends.
It always came
never
with the
ends.
wooden boat or like it floated down a river.
Yeah, like instead of a conveyor belt, it's like water, and it's in San Fran. It just floats up to you. And you're, oh, there's mine. It's nasty.
Unbelievable.
It's like
Nasty
the
fish on a conveyor
It's
belt.
like the fish jumped onto the boat.
Yeah.
And you eat it.
And they have it so you can just order it on an iPad and they make it fresh. So you don't have to wait for the conveyor belt.
Sure. Sure they do.
They do. What do you mean? Sure they
and
do.
you went on a holiday weekend on a Monday, on a Sunday.
Ooh.
Look, you see what I'm saying?
Old fish.
It never ends. It never ends with this house of horror.
Let's take Lee to the good spot, man.
He would die. If you took him to a good restaurant, he would die.
Yeah.
Him and they pick garbage on purpose. They throw a dart. What's the worst place we could go to? And where could we drive to really waste our fucking time? I was telling Bert the other night, I go, Bert, I'm doing a human experiment.
Yeah.
I got like a human experiment that I watch people. You know, I watch everybody, and I think, and I think college people lately, like this new last 2 generations, they're done.
Dumb as rocks.
They're not dumb, done.
Yeah.
Because they bought into something. Him and D'Agostino are the same age. D'Agostino makes less money than he does. You got to see the places D'Agostino goes to, just on a hunch.
Yeah.
He grew up in the valley, I give him that. But he doesn't go on any safaris, nothing like that. He knows where, it's consistent.
Yeah.
It's consistent. It's all, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I've ever tried to do for you. It's just eliminate the hype and the bullshit and you to get the best available to you. That's what I've strived for my whole life. The beauty of my life is, as dumb as I am and uneducated and felonies is, I never bought into the hype of nothing. 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 It was always my battlefield, my playing field, or this ain't gonna work for you. Since I've been 20, like I didn't understand. And I've had my hard-headed moments as a young man. That's why I ended up in prison, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But those little hard-headed moments land you in a different prison. When things are simple right in front of you, but you choose to make them harder and whatever, that comes back to bite you.
You go the long road.
Not now, but later.
Yeah.
We goof on it, and I think about Lee, and I go, what's he doing? Like, how did he get this in his head? Like, Ventura's right there, Santa Barbara's right there, but he went to Pismo Beach. Oh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it never ends.
Yeah.
It's like, every time he says something, like, I just go, oh, my God. And I giggle in my head. Because it's not even a hypothesis.
Dude, you're missing out. Pismo Beach is great.
It's an educated guess.
Yeah.
And it's not even an educated guess. They let somebody else do the guessing for them. So why live? Why be alive?
Yeah. What are you doing, Lee?
I don't do nothing that's cool. Like, I don't give a fuck how cool it is.
Yeah.
If somebody sells me something that's cool, I don't want to go there. Like, remember for a while on Sunset, they had the naked lady sushi?
Oh, yeah.
Downstairs,
Yep.
you go eat your fucking sushi or some chick's stomach. Do I want to do that?
No.
I go 2 minutes on Colfax. I sit at the bar. I don't bother nobody. I get the Philly roll, the fucking couple pieces of albacore, and I'm out of there tip-top magoo.
Yeah.
Because I ain't got time to waste. I don't have time to go to the capital of fucking sushi here in California.
Yeah.
To go all the way to the west side.
The worst area, too, west side.
Yeah.
What are you talking to?
For 4 pieces of shitty fish.
It says Little Japan on the street name. If you go to that street,
That's why you go there
everything's in
for
Japanese. Yeah, that's why I go there. I went there for sushi. It took 10 minutes. It's right next to the 405. If you're missing out, dude, it's Little Japan over there. They have a nursery for flowers that little Japanese people, they take care of flowers. It's beautiful. They have restaurants where they only have Japanese on them. It's great.
Little Japan or Little Tokyo?
Well, no, it's like Little Tokyo is like, I think it's actually called Little Japan too. I just call it Little Tokyo. That they have that in downtown. I went there once. It was okay, but there were lines everywhere. I went down to West LA. There's parking, tons of parking. It was great. It was fun.
How did you hear about this restaurant?
I looked. Okay. He hates Yelp.
Here we
so,
go.
but
Here we
here's
go.
You use Yelp?
I use
Oh,
Yelp.
please. He doesn't go to.
But
he gets Yelp
can I at
and
least
whatever his
defend
girlfriend
myself?
says.
No.
Whatever the boss says and Yelp.
Yeah, the boss says. I just used it because where else are you supposed to find the conveyor belt sushi place? I just typed in conveyor belt sushi. I found one, and I used to work right next door.
Where did you hear about conveyor belt sushi in the first place?
I've first of all, one of our good friends went there. Went. I don't know if it was that one. I didn't get a text back, but and then when I moved out here when I went out here, I read an article. Our good friend Becky went to one of the same thing with the iPad.
Oh, yeah.
It's
it just, I don't know. To me, it just sounds like it's just processed food.
Sushi's up.
No,
Processed
it's
food.
not.
Is it fresh? They make it fresh and then here you go.
No, he didn't see that. No.
I mean, I don't know. It probably does. The ones on the conveyor belt probably could go around.
You might
a
as
time
well go
or
to
two.
Ralph's, brother.
Oh,
You might
that's
as well go to Ralph's and
disgusting.
get
No.
the same sushi.
7-Eleven sushi. Ever see that? Sometimes I walk in, I see 7-Eleven sushi, and I go, "Are you fucking kidding? Like, who would even tempt that?"
Lee would.
No, I wouldn't.
If I wouldn't have met Lee, he would have been at 7-Eleven sushi.
7-Eleven sushi.
Yes, he would.
At least fighting back tonight. Look at him. He's
Well,
all.
because he's what is it called? Not what's this slandering? This is libeling my name, slandering my
Attacking
name.
your taste.
Yeah. No,
Have you ever gotten sick from?
No,
one of
I've
these?
never won.
Oh, yes, he has.
No, I haven't.
Wholesale sushi on Laurel
No, I
Canyon.
didn't. I got sick because you gave me a fucking
I saw
edible.
people running out of there one day.
Ah.
I said, "Where'd you go for sushi?" Over there. I saw people running out of there like their asshole was on fire. That whole mall is death over there. That whole mall.
That's-
The Hindu place, the They got the fucking what's the other plate? The cookies.
The Hindu place?
Yeah, they got like
They have a macaroon place.
Yeah, macaroon place.
Oh, yeah.
Noodle something. That's horrific. Welcome to the Thanksgiving podcast with Uncle Joe.
Lot to be thankful for.
Lot to be fucking thankful for. Don't forget that turkey, cocksucker. Remember that song, Ricky, Don't Lose My Number? Ricky, don't forget about me. Bring the turkey over. You gotta set your mark on the force. You don't want to be the third son back in the room like a fucking lumber.
I'm not. Why am I gonna bring a turkey over there?
You live near your mom?
No, she lives in Boston.
Oh, so she's in town.
No, his mother-in-law.
Oh, his mother-in-law.
His mother-in-law.
She lives nearby?
Yeah, they're Spanish. They love to
Okay.
fucking cook. There's 4 of them. They're gonna make chickens. How many chickens you gonna make? Bring a fucking turkey over. Get the party started. Why are you so scared?
I'm not scared.
Yes,
bro.
you are. This is not about I don't like turkey. You eat a scab off a fucking foot. You eat turkey from fucking Subway.
Yeah.
That means you'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Right, so stop it. Don't say that. I don't like to eat turkey because
No,
it's dry. All of a sudden now you're trying to throw the dry fucking thing in there.
Grab a leg. Grab
You
a
eat
leg and
fucking
rip it off.
turkey every day. Stop bullshitting me.
Turkey's fine.
You gotta set your
But
mark
bro,
and enforce it. Oh, bro, what? What?
I moved here. I had a lot of Thanksgivings where I didn't have anybody to have it with. Now I'm having it with this girl that I've been dating for 2.5 years. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't care. I'll eat turkey at some point, or maybe I won't. It doesn't matter to me. Why does turkey matter?
Because it matters. You gotta have it's fucking America. It's America, Lee. You gotta
I'll
set
turkey
your
at some point.
You gotta set your mark and enforce it. That's it. They're gonna eat chicken every fucking year. You gotta bring a turkey over. She's gonna cook anything. She's a great cook. She loves to cook. Bring the fucking turkey over there. Set the rules for next year.
Yeah, but that doesn't take like 8 hours.
It takes like 8 hours. You set it up in the morning. It's not 8, it's maybe 6 hours.
So where
You
am I
throw it
gonna-
in the morning and it's a whole day together. It's not just about eating the turkey, it's about the process. You stuff it, you clean it, you tie its little fucking legs together. And then you wait and the house starts to smell like turkey and you watch some football, you fuck around with your girlfriend in the other room for a little while. Whatever it takes. I know you're gonna get high. And you're just gonna keep smelling that turkey as you get high and hungry, and then that shit comes out, and it's got wet stuffing coming out of its pussy.
If it's 2 in the afternoon and you ain't high, go fuck yourself. Get out of my face. I want you around me like I want cancer in my ball sack. You know what I'm saying?
Hi, I'm Joe Manganiello, and it is your last chance to play Dungeons & Dragons with me in Seattle.
The Joe Rogan experience.
I bring up the Lancasters, who I went with when I stayed in the NWT for that 2-month time frame. Those guys live up there. I bet if you ask a Bart or a Clay Lancaster how many times they've been luck charged, it's like triple digits. Like, well, just hunting with those guys, the shit that they've done.
Triple digits, meaning 100 times?
At a minimum.
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
So like the shit those guys deal with, they've been doing it since birth, right? And so I was telling like Amy and Frank, I was like, okay, you guys know how much I've done and all the different things, hunted and how many animals I've put on the ground. It's a fraction. Clay Lancaster's been on 320 sheep hunts. 320.
That's a lot.
That's not including caribou, moose. He's been all over the world. So the amount of experience those guys have and the stories, like when I get those guys on the podcast, it's hilarious because I just got to experience a 2.5-month section of it. We were literally from a light bulb, from a paved road, hours from any electricity. Like, it's a 12-hour drive to where the helicopter picks you up, and then you're flown in another 2 hours. So when I got bit by that bite. It was funny, like that spider. It was funny at
What are you
first.
talking about?
Oh yeah, fuck. I got bit by a spider up there, and I'm like, hey Clay, my leg's fucked up. I think I got bit by something. He's like, there's nothing poisonous up here. Well, I about fucking died. My leg swelled up. We're drawing circles around it. Well, the first couple circles, right, wasn't that big of a deal. So Clay cuts it open. Hey, listen to the podcast. He's hilarious because he squeezed that thing and I acted like it didn't hurt. I thought I was gonna pass out from fucking shock. So
Squeeze the pus out?
yeah. I don't know that it helped, but it gave him pleasure.
What kind of spider was it?
Man, you got to listen to the podcast to hear the whole story, but we ended up calling it the long-cock black hobo spider, and there's a story beside that, but I think it was a hobo spider.
Those are dangerous.
Yeah, but I don't think they're overly poisonous. I think I was allergic to it. But the moral of the story, in 6 hours, my leg locked up straight. There was veins going up towards my heart, and I had cold sweats. Heart rate was racing. And Clay's like, dude, we got to get you out of here. You're going to fucking die. Like, we are a long, long, long ways from anywhere.
How far?
4-hour helicopter ride, but then you're dealing with some fucked up
Jesus
doctor in
Christ.
the northern part of Whitehorse, you know, or where
Some
the fuck it
voodoo
was.
doctor.
It wouldn't have been good. So I called my buddy who's a medic, and I was like, dude, what should we do? And he's like, all right, piss on it, bleach, ibuprofen, fucking get some shit. Yeah, because I guess like bleach cleans everything out. Like he's giving me, I can't remember all
So
the stuff.
Trump was right?
I don't know what's exactly. But I was like, holy shit. I was like, okay, so we're pouring pee on it. We're like crushing up ibuprofen. And
Do you pour pee on it? Do you let your buddy pee on it?
so here's the thing. One of my
'Cause
buddies
that's where it
must have
gets weird.
had a Big Johnson because he was ready to pee on it right there. And I'm like, dude, pee in a fucking bottle. I'm like, I don't want to see your wiener while you're peeing on my leg. And so
You wouldn't want it right off the tap? Somehow or another, it's
Even-
better if he pees in a bottle and then pours it on you?
it would have been awkward. And think of the stories that would have been told after about
Yeah, but
getting
it'd be
peed
funny
on.
stories.
Well, either way, we were pouring pee on my leg.
But if it was a matter of survival, isn't that funny? That you'd rather have a guy pee in a bottle and then pee and then pour that pee on you than pee on you.
I guess looking at it that way,
It's
yeah.
weird. I get it.
Yeah.
I feel I'm right there with you.
Oh.
I understand your thought process.
Well,
I think I'd let the guy piss on me though.
At the time, I was like not overly worried, and then when my leg locked up, it was. If you measured my leg, it gained 2 1/4 in circumference inches. That's how much my leg swelled up.
Oh wow,
So
that's a lot.
yeah, it was. I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but what was funny is once it went back down, we just duct taped towels around my calf muscle to go on moose hunts because it was so fucking painful when the infection was going down because the willows were beating it up, and I'm like, I really want to see some of these 70-inch wide moose. Let's just take. So we taped towels around my calf.
So you never made it out of there?
Mm-mm, no.
So you just dealt with it while you were in the woods?
That went away in like 24 hours.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it wasn't that. It wasn't.
But you didn't think it was going to. You thought you were going to die.
I don't want to make it sound worse than it was. It got a little nerve-wracking there towards the end. My fucking heart started racing and I'm like, yeah,
So your body's
that's not good.
Whenever you have an infection, infections are fucking dangerous, man.
Well, I had veins going up my leg.
Like you could
That's
see
where-
the veins. What you're saying?
That's what when Clay was talking about it because I was
Because
maybe
of
I tried
course
to,
you have veins going up your leg. That's how you get blood.
yeah, and it showed them a lot. So they
So
were
they were blue or something.
looked like an Etch-a-Sketch going up my leg.
Dark.
Yeah, dark.
So you were worried that the infection was making its way to your heart.
Well, from what limited knowledge I had was that is a pretty much sure thing you're gonna fucking die.
Do
That's
you
when
carry
I got nervous.
any antibiotics with you or anything when you go into a hunt like that?
I do when I go to Canada now because of their weird government. I shouldn't even say this. I have friends that'll prescribe them to me to take with me. Now, last in 18, I don't even remember. My hands looked like Deadpool's face from that milkweed or some shit. I was. Look, shit that happens in the backcountry.
What happened?
So I'm on that mule deer hunt, and my hands are swelling up, and I don't know why. And they look like Deadpool's face, and I'm like, what's wrong with my hands? I'm looking around like, what could be around me? It's not poison ivy, and my hands are swelling up like. Remember that movie, Big Trouble in Little China?
Yeah.
The Asian dude's hands swell up. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like that. Well, as it turns out, it's hogweed or milkweed. I don't know, some fucking plant that does that. And if you Google it and you pull it up, it's fucking nasty. But if you want to Google hogweed on certain humans, it has this crazy rash inflammation. So my hands, it's affected by sunlight. It's worse. So I'm at 13,000 feet, and I'm on the spotter with my hands in the sun all day, to a point like.
And at 13,000 feet, the sun is way stronger.
Fuck yeah. Like
you get really burnt up there.
Use a solar charger, it charges up your shit twice as fast because you're that close to the sun.
Is that really what it's from, or is it just a lack of? Oh my God! Look at that giant hogweed. Look at the hands.
It wasn't good, let me tell you. So my
Holy
hands
shit.
look like those ones in the middle.
Blow that picture up in the right-hand corner. That is crazy. The one that you see, the large picture. Yeah, look at that. What the fuck, man? That's from hogweed.
So go to the left. The one in the middle there. That's what my hands look like.
The one in the middle, the left. Yeah.
That one. Yeah. They look like that. So Frank comes over and he's like, "Dude, what the hell is wrong with your hand?" And I'm like, that's a good question. So we come out because I dude, it was bad. And I go to the doctor, right? And I'm like, I go to the emergency room and I'm like, "Hey,
what does that hogweed look like?" Just so I know.
Man,
people got 3rd-degree burns from it.
Whoa.
It's not good.
Can we see an image?
Yeah.
That's it? That stuff? That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was low crawling through that shit to
Oh
go to
my
a mule
God.
deer. So-
Giant hogweed and its toxic cousins. Wow, that's crazy.
But those are the things you just don't think about, right? So I went and they gave me, all kinds of steroid cream and shit, and it went away in a day or two, and we hiked back in.
But this looks like a flower. I would have never imagined.
I wouldn't
So this
either.
is just. How did it get on both your hands? Your hands just rubbed up against it?
Well, you figure there's big fields of it, and I've got my bow hanging, and I'm low crawling, and just like it would any weed.
So to mitigate that, what do? Do you wear gloves? Is there something you could put on your hands?
I don't know. I just
Look how fucking tall that shit is.
Yeah, I just kept my hands out of the weeds the next year.
Oh my God! Toxic giant hogweed plants show up in Duncan Lake. Oh no, you just made it too big. Lake Cowichan Gazette.
Yeah.
Where's that, Duncan?
I don't know.
Look at the size of that. It's like fucking 9 feet tall.
It wasn't that tall where I was at. It was 3 foot tall, right about even with your hands. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So, just that weed has like some sort of an oil or something like that?
That's what they said. The
Like a
doctor.
poison ivy type deal?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I went, they had no idea. I'm like, "Hey, my buddy from Alaska messaged me. And he said, dude, I think that's hogweed." I'm like, what? I had the same reaction you did. What the fuck is hogweed? Googled it, drove across the road, Kaiser's, emergency room, things like right across the road from Kafaru. I drove over there and I'm like, "Hey, I'm all screwed up," and they're like, "What it?" They don't know what it is, and I'm like, "Hey, this is what I think it is." They Googled it just like we did, and they were like, "Oh, well, that makes sense," because they didn't know. And then they gave me like this steroid cream to put on. Went away in a couple days.
Jesus Christ. So between that and the bite, what was worse?
Oh, the bite.
The bite was that much worse.
I could have kept hunting with that. I just not knowing what it was. Well, we've been in there 12 days. I'm like, it's about time to come out anyway. So we came out. What was crazy, we came out a couple days. We go back in, and Frank's already got his deer. We go back in, and Frank, I thought his appendix burst. As it turns out, he just ate too much sushi, and it got clogged up in his stomach. But Frank is harder than woodpecker lips. We get on these 2 deer we're trying to get, and he's not getting out of the tent. And Frank is not like that. He's like, I hear him go, "Sir, I'm going to stay in a tent this morning." And I'm like, "Dude, you good?" Now, keep in mind, Frank got pulmonary edema, and that dumb shit hiked out with pulmonary edema. He literally, his lungs filled up with liquid.
And that's an altitude sickness, right?
Altitude sickness, and that fucker hiked out 9 miles with pulmonary edema.
Jesus Christ.
When he got back, he coughed, and it was like emptying a water bottle. So he's a tough individual. So I'm like, dude, this guy. I even texted Amy. I'm like, "Hey, Frank's fucked up. I might have to hit the beacon. Like I might have to get help."
Helicoptered out.
So anyway, I go over. I shoot this deer.
So it was just sushi?
I guess.
So where did you guys eat sushi? In Denver the day before?
So I think what had happened, we had starved ourselves for 12 days, right? Dehydration, and he must have ate in the woods. We came out. We all went out to dinner, and I think he ate all that white rice, and it just clung to his intestines like a woolly mammoth, because he ended up just having to take a big poop, right? But in the middle, where your appendix is, he's like, it hurts right here. And I've had gallbladder issues. I passed a kidney stone like 6 miles in, so I was like, his appendix is erupt. He's gonna die back here. And so it's to show you how the you know, moxie that Frank has, he drug his ass out of that tent and filmed me shooting that mule deer, and he hobbled his ass over there after I shot it, and it's a fucking mile and a half from where he's glassing, you know, flagging me in, and he just sat by the deer. I cut it up, whatever, and I'm like, dude, I'll get most of it. You good? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I'm like, I can tell you're not fucking okay. Like, you're in pain. And he made it out, and then he took a giant poop, and everything was okay. But it, I thought he was gonna have to hit the beacon.
That's so bizarre that it was just from rice and poop.
Well, we're not doctors, but that's what I chalked it up to.
Yeah,
'cause he was
maybe
fucking
food
pain.
poisoning. Sure, it wasn't food poisoning.
He wasn't puking. That was the only thing. But again, I'm not a doctor. But every time I've had it, I've puked.
So those are the worst experiences. What about injuries? You ever get like really hurt out there?
Trying to think. The kidney stone, that was a bad one.
You had to piss that out?
Oh fuck, that was horrible.
How
I
big
didn't
was it?
know. I'll tell the quick version of it. I think I was 10 days into a hunt and I shot a mule deer.
Were you dehydrated?
Fuck yeah, I was dehydrated, and I peed blood, and of course like an idiot, and I'm like, it's fine, whatever. And hiked the mule deer out, turn around, I met a buddy, dropped it off, and then hiked back in. And then like that night or the night after, I was it was pretty high elevation, but anyway, I went after this bull, and something like knocked loose in my kid. You know, I didn't know what it was. Just all of a sudden, I had this shooting pain, and I looked at that dude on the Green Mile trying to pee, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I literally, like, I'm gonna pass out from shock. What the hell is wrong with me?
Did you think it was a kidney stone?
I didn't know, right? I didn't. It was so much pain in my back area that I knew it had something to do with my kidneys, but every time I tried to pee, I literally would drop me to my knees, and so I was like, okay, let's assess this, and I'm trying to think through, should I take next to no gear and try and hike out, take enough gear to stay the night, but then have the burden of the weight? You know, what's going to be the best option? Because I didn't have any service, and I didn't have I didn't have anything back with me that I could get a hold of anyone, and so I'm like, fuck it, no guts, no glory. I grabbed the basic essentials and hobbled my ass out. And at one point, I did have a phone, but I didn't have service. I texted my buddy Tony and said, hey, what is the nearest hospital to this trailhead? And I lost service. And so all he knew was I'm fucked up.
Right.
So I get to the trailhead and I get in my Jeep, and I had a giant Jeep, and I'm doing like 90 down the road, and I get pulled over. Well, the cop was looking for me because my buddy had called and said, I don't know what's going on. He's somewhere. Well, the cop was kind of a dick, right? I get out, and I'm like, hey, man, he wanted to call an ambulance. And I'm like, look, dude, I just hiked out 6 miles. I'm not paying $3,500 for a fucking ambulance ride. I just hiked 6 miles out. I can make it to the hospital. And so he was a little bit of a dick, but he followed me into the hospital, and I passed it. I don't know, 30 in the toilet. Tink, tink, tink. And it looked
Did
like
you
a
save it?
chickapee. No, but it would look like a chickapee.
Like a chickpea? Like
yeah,
one of them?
a little spiky little bastard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was horrible looking.
How big was it?
Not very big.
Big
smaller
enough
than
for
a BB.
Your dick hole. Think
Holy
about
moly,
anything
man!
Going through that.
What was crazy is right after that, I was good to go. I mean, once
Really?
you passed it, I was fine. I hiked back in the next day.
What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. We finally did this.
Yeah, good to see you. I had been pestered about 4 million times, or when you're getting on Rogan's podcast, I'm like, why don't you ask Rogan? I don't know. So when you finally asked, I'm like, woohoo! I was excited. I feel like I've made it.
Well, so many people have asked me when I've worn your shirt. People that, what is this shirt? This rhino shirt. What is that? That's Kafaro. That's your backpack company. And because I've worn this on the podcast, people are like, well, when are you going to get Snyder on? When are you going to get Snyder on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that probably gets old. I have to respect the amount of people that... How many times have you changed your phone number in the last 10 years?
Multiple.
Yeah, I bet.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Got to keep it moving.
I might have to copy you, and I've got 1/10 of the following you do. I just... it's hard to keep up, and people... surprised how sensitive they get when you don't respond to them, and it's like...
They get angry.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I've had guys like, I know you're not that busy. I'm like, really?
You
Do you
don't
really know?
People get real weird with that kind of stuff when they want something. You know, it's like there's some people that'll text you, and then if you don't text them right back, they'll send you question marks like question.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it gets it's weird trying to. Little did I know where I would end up in life compared, where I started from, and then now. Well, it's funny. My wife, she knew me we met in 2007. Didn't have a phone, no computer, lived in the woods, slept on a Thermarest air mattress.
You didn't have a phone or a computer in 2007?
It was bad. You know what? I think I might have got a flip phone right around that time frame. And I was sleeping on and this is a no bullshit story. She'll tell you. I had gotten divorced, and I kind of made this, do whatever. I wanted to hunt a lot, get out in the woods a lot. So I slept on a Thermarest air mattress in my, you bring chicks over, they're like, what the fuck is this? I just had this, 24-inch wide backpacking air mattress. I slept on that and just saved, money for whatever hunting, getting in outdoors. And then she and I, screwed around, dated for a while, and we were apart for several years. And we got back together. She's like, who the fuck are you? Like, we're in Walmart. They're like, Snyder! And she's like, is that a friend of yours? I'm like, I have no idea who that is. And because she skipped all that time. And then I'm marketing, and I'm wired in all the time. She's like, are you a different person, a different body? Because I was not different acting. She just, she knew me as the low-tech dude that just was anti, anything
So because of
technology.
your podcast, and that's probably what, and then Gritty Bowman before that.
Yeah,
right?
yep. All of that stuff, forums and whatever, all that different stuff, just got well known, and then went from there. So.
Well, that world of outdoor enthusiasts and backpack hunters is such a rabid world. The guys who are really into that, for people who don't understand, it's like if you combined ultra marathon running, rucking, and hunting together. It's kind of all those things, because it's, we've talked about it on the podcast before, and I know I've brought you up before, but it's that world it's the combination of athlete. Like, I don't like when people call bow hunting a sport, because I think it's more of a discipline. It's a weird thing to call it a sport, because it's not like there's a game going on. It's you're hunting an animal, but it's a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
But it also requires athleticism. It requires the kind of workout that, if you're going to be able to make it 15 miles into the backcountry with a 40-pound pack on, you have to be in insane shape, and you got to be able to get out with an animal on your back in multiple trips. It could take you several days. Like just the taxing effect that it has on a human body. So the guys that are into that shit, when they run into a guy like you that's legit, they get very rabid.
It's crazy, and I mean, there's that. Well, I would say Cam kicked it off, right? He was not the people get sensitive about that. Cam was not the original, but Cam was the original that everybody knew. If
And
that
he made
makes
a
any
book
sense.
too.
Yeah,
He's got a great book.
Well, and he was the guy that going back, like he was the first one to promote backpack hunting with a platform. Like, I'm not the first stick bow guy.
Right.
I'm just the first stick bow guy with a platform. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the first dude that shoots a recurve that is somewhat known. Where
For people that don't follow hunting, let me explain to you. Aaron got too good at shooting with a compound bow, which is probably one of the hardest ways to hunt. So he decided to shoot with a fucking like a medieval bow.
Let's talk about how that got started. So, I was you in the fact I made fun of stick bow guys. Like, I was bad. Like, I was truly mean to them. Like, somebody'd come down. So for people who don't understand, when you go to an outdoor range, you've got one long line, and you've got targets on the far right, which is like the 5-pound weights at the gym. And then on the far left, you've got the 200-pound dumbbells. That's a 100-yard bail. So I'm over at the 100-yard bail shooting a Reinhardt 18-1, 100, 120. And I would have stick bow guys come down to me and tell me I'm unethical for shooting that distance. And I would be like, you can't hit the bail down there at 10 yards. You're at the chump side. What are you giving me shit for? And it
They
got
would
to
tell you
where-
you're unethical for shooting at a target. Or
Yeah,
that you're
'cause-
practicing at that range. Like, what were they?
It was weird. And
why is that people want to do that? They want to tell you what you're doing is wrong.
I don't human nature, I guess. And I ended up doing a podcast, talked about, God forbid you break down mathematically, right? You can break down the speed of an arrow and the accuracy, and you take a guy, shooting whatever, 290 feet per second. How long does it take his arrow to get to 80 yards? How long does it take an arrow to get from, 170 feet per second to 35 yards? So I kind of evened all that up and said, well, here's apples to apples, oranges to oranges. This is it. Fuck, I got hate mail. I mean, you're a horrible hunter. You're using your ability instead of hunting skills, you know, to shoot. And so I was like, fuck it. I sold everything I had, every compound, every sight, every arrow. I didn't want that temptation. And I'm like, I'm going to shoot it up. We'll see, right? We'll see how good I can get, because I never shot a stick bow. Ever.
So you, just because of people's reaction to you, you decided to go to a recurve bow?
Yeah, 100%.
Which is, for people who don't understand the difference, so this can be absorbed by people who don't hunt. The difference is when you have a compound bow, you have a sight on a compound bow that will allow you to scroll out. You could roll out to so my sight is set at 30 yards. That's where it's normally set at. But you can go all the way to 120 yards. And what it does is it raises your pin. So it changes where the pin goes up and down, and the pin is how you aim. So you can get really accurate. See, if you're a guy like Cam Haynes, I mean, he shoots at 100 yards all the time. And, you know, he can get into a small group at 100 yards. John Dudley, the same thing. It's very accurate. Whereas with a recurve bow, there's no sight. You're doing it with the point of your arrow, and you have to practice much more. And it's like throwing a rock. Like you get if you throw rocks all the time, you kind of get a feel of where you can throw that rock.
Yeah, throwing that rock was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, let me tell you. So I'm very goal-oriented, and I at a problem, which is I'm not very good at losing. And I'm not saying I'm a spoiled loser. I'm psychotic when I lose at something. Like my wife will tell you, I'll go to a tournament, first thing I do when I get home, I'm having her film me breaking down things. So I thought, well, we're gonna see if these people are right. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna do nothing but trad. And so
trad meaning traditional bow.
Archery. Yep. Yeah. And so I'm lucky enough. Tom Klum, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like the Yoda of traditional archery. So I go down there with a wad of cash, and I'm like, and they've got several hundred recurves. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna shoot a stick bow, guys, and they're like, they've seen me shoot a comp, and they're like, cool, let's get you set up. And I'm thinking, I got good hand-eye coordination. This shouldn't be a problem. Fuck, man. I'm like, I went from shooting 58 X's on a 5-spot on average to I can't hit the target at 20 yards. And I'm like, oh, this fucking was.
I've only shot a recurve bow a couple times, but I did it recently in Hawaii, like last summer. And they had like some range out there. They had recurve bows you could shoot. It's amazing how difficult it is to hit something if you don't have any experience doing it.
Yeah, well, and I was lucky because I had that whole family there to help me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're, you know, it's like you having Dudley and, you know, they took me under their wing and they're explaining this. And so I got what I thought was good pretty fast, which 40 yards with a stick was far. But I hadn't hunted yet, you know, and so then I go out, and I don't remember, I shot that black bear, and you know, I'm within 40 yards of it for 20 minutes, and in my mind I'm thinking he would be so dead if I had my compound. I just couldn't get a shot, and I finally squeaked it in, missed it at like 18 yards, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, sniper. So luckily, and Tom had told me this, he said, you're going to get 2 or 3 shots in the animal, they don't hear the bow. And they don't. Landed by its feet, it kind of looked around, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to miss you again. Just got it on the second shot. And I'm like, this isn't, you know, I can get this figured out.
Did you have any qualms about hunting with it? Like, how long did it take before you felt ethical enough to hunt with it?
Well, I hunted with it 3 months.
Did you feel like that was a smart move, or do you feel like you rushed it?
Well, I was psychotic shooting hours a day. Like, I was shooting constantly. So I think I was fine because I had the coaching, I had the help, and I had the accuracy. I could hit. I mean, I was doing well. To what I had to compare to around me, I was like, okay, this is good. So I didn't feel like I went into it unethical, like I couldn't hit what I was aiming at, but I didn't have experience. And I mean, you look at knowledge and wisdom, right? Knowledge, you're reading about it. Wisdom, you're experiencing it. Well, I thought what I knew from shooting a compound, my hunting skills would be enough. And they were. I ended up shooting, 11, 12 animals that year. But fuck, man, it was like every time I went out, I was learning something new, and I had to totally change my hunting style.
When you think about it from a perspective of someone who's a non-hunter, they question why you would want to shoot a bow and arrow in the first place, because they think that would be less ethical than using a rifle. If you wanted to shoot something, you should use a rifle. You can kill it quicker. It's better. to go from that to a compound bow, it's like, why are you doing that? You know, and then they realize like, oh, you can actually be very accurate with a compound bow if you have practice and if you learn how to do it correctly and you're disciplined. But to take it another level and to go to a recurve, like that's where it gets to in some people's minds. Like, are you hunting for food? Are you hunting for your ego? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing it with a recurve bow? And I think one of the best answers I've ever heard from anybody is that they said it is much more difficult, but also much more rewarding. And when you're eating that animal, you have this insane sense of accomplishment that's actually another level past even with a compound bow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you've explained it better there than I could, and I'm going to give it a whirl. So I went from your side of things, making fun of everyone, to being addicted to getting close. So now the first year I shot a mule deer at 4 feet in the cliffs. When I drew my bow back, my arrow was between its horns. When I drew up, Frank took photos of it.
Oh, that's so crazy.
But it was one of those things where now the reward from it, like that feeling you have when you get it done,
because it's much more difficult.
Much more difficult.
It makes me think about like what it must have been like to be the Native American.
Hey, what it was like, it's fucking hungry is what it was like. I bet. I mean, I have technology on my side, right? And I have a lot.
Finders.
Yeah, binoculars, clothing. I got everything, and so. That year, though, when we were going in on a lot of these animals, I was able to get a couple turkeys and a black bear, and I shot a mule deer. And that mule deer, like I said, when I was in those cliffs, my arrow was between its antlers when I drew back, so I shot it at 3 feet. And
That's crazy.
It was crazy. And that would have never happened with
How did you sneak up on it like that?
Luck and wind. Yeah, so Frank, he was glassing it, and I circled. It was probably 2.5 miles around, maybe.
So you were above it on the cliff?
No, we were. When I shot it, I was. So we were across from it, however far we were. I mean, over a mile, and I looped way around, and I told Frank. I said, "Hey, when you see me, just give me the touchdown that I'm above it." Man, I stalked the wrong rock twice. I lost my boots. I'm like, what?
Because you took your shoes off to sneak in?
Yeah, but except I was sneaking in on a fucking rock, right? I wasn't at the right rock, and because to go that far and hit the exact same spot is difficult, because I lost sight of Frank almost the whole way because I couldn't expose myself. So when I looped around, when I would see Frank, he was so far away, and I was so close to the rock that I thought the deer was under. I didn't want to make any crazy movements, and then I would go back the 100 yards, try and find my boots, get my boots back on, loop back around to try to find the spot. So when I finally got to the right spot, Frank stood up a mile away, held his hands up, and I'm like, it's got to be right in front of me. And I caught the top 3 inches of its velvet antlers sticking up. And it was windy, so every gust of wind, which is about every 10-15 seconds, I took a step. I got to 9 yards, and I grabbed a rock and threw it. And the mule deer, they tell you everything you need to know in the top 4 inches of their antlers. So I'm watching those to see if he moves. Didn't move at all. Nothing. Threw another rock, nothing. Threw another rock, and I'm like...
So explain to people, you're throwing a rock to try to get this thing to stand up so you get a shot.
To get a shot,
so you're throwing a rock just to make noise.
Yep, in hopes that he just starts... get a reaction.
Around.
Yep. Right. And anyway, he didn't move, and I'm like, I'm going to climb on that rock he's bedded under. And I mean, you can talk about, you couldn't have put a greased flaxseed through my ass with a hammer. I had just started doing this, and this deer is feet from me. And I got my foot on the rock he was on, and I'm like...
Journey well.